From your
Okay.
experience, what does the peer review process look like behind a successful publication? What should young researchers realistically expect from revise and resubmit cycles?
Okay. Thank you for the question again. Again, it's a very good question. So once you write a paper and then it goes through, a couple of reviewing. So you do your own review and then you also ask your PhD advisors to review a paper. And once they, give you their suggestions, and then, once they're okay with the review, then the next part is, okay, publication. Because when you write a paper, as long as it's not published, the findings really just to you, right? So you are the one who did the study, and then you understand the finding, and then you probably go to conferences here and there, and then you publish your I mean, you just talk about your research in the conferences, but unless you actually do the publication, right? So this is not available to the open mass, right? So for example, when I wrote this paper on Nepal using data from Nepal, and I was presenting my findings in the United States. I was going to conferences and presenting my work. But then the audience in Nepal didn't know about my research, didn't know about my finding. So the way to sort of like to really so bring my results into light is actually by publishing. So publishing is interesting because it could be frustrating. First is identifying what journal you're looking at, right? And then what journal to send your paper. So that is the first challenge that you encounter. Okay, what journal that you send your publication to. So my experience, like so how we, how I do things is, so I look at what journals I'm repeatedly citing in my paper, right? So what couple of journals that I'm keep, so like the papers published in certain journals that I'm keep citing in my own paper. So I look at them and I see that, okay, my paper could be a good fit to that journal because they're already publishing papers, right, similar to my topic, so they'll be interested in my topic. So I list out a couple of those journals. Maybe let's say I select four of them, and I'll see what is the highest ranked journal, right? So chances are that your paper may be rejected there, right? But often they either, let's say even if it's rejected, they either sometimes the journal just rejected, saying like, hey, we just rejecting the paper because we don't see the fit, or they could be rejecting the paper, but at least give you some feedback, saying, well, the paper is not to our standard, but then here are a couple of things that you can to do for your future publication, right? So you usually start with the higher journal, right? Again, that's the chances are that it will be rejected, but then at least you could the expect. I mean, usually, I mean, or occasionally you'd get rejection with comments, and then those are always helpful. And then you sort of like put those comments in your work again, and then you try it for the second journal, and then let's say the second journal likes your work, right? So that would pass the desk, so that would pass the editorial board. The editorial board would decide that, well, this paper looks good, right? This fits to our journal's objective, so this looks like a good fit. So they'd send invitations to reviewers. So reviewers who publish papers like on that topic or similar topics will be they'll receive an email saying like, hey, would you like to review this paper? We got this paper, would you like to review it? And I, for example, I also get all this emails saying like, hey, would you like to review this paper? Like, this is similar to the research that you do, this is within your research interest, so would you like to review this paper? So once those reviewers get those requests, and then they accept it, reject it. So let's say they accepted. Let's say there were two reviewers who accepted your the request, and so they'll review your work, and then they'll assess your work, and then they'd either give you minor comments saying like the paper is good. There's just a couple of things I want them to address, or there could be major comments where they say that the paper what it is like right now has to do a lot of work. There's a lot of missing, arguments that miss, evidence, or there's more evidence needed, or the writing may not be good. So they give you, saying like major revisions that needed. So a paper could qualify as a minor revision or a major revision. And then so reviewers will give those papers back to the editors, and the editor would now decide whether they would like to continue with the paper. And then you'd get an email saying like, well, we've identified that the reviewers have already reviewed the paper, and looks like you have a major revision to do, or they'd be saying there's a minor revision to do. And then you'll get all those comments from the reviewers, and then you sit down and then try to address all those comments. So most of the comments are doable, right? So you can do them. They just ask you like, hey, could you give me more explanation about your data, or could you give me some additional explanation about your methodology, or if you could just like cite this recent paper. So most of the comments are doable. Sometimes the comments that they give may not be doable because you are really confined by your data. So the data has so much information. They don't have, so it's really difficult to come with the perfect data. So perfect data does not exist. So it's difficult to address everything the reviewers tell you to do. So you humbly tell them that, well, this is something, thank you so much for your comment. This is something we also thought about, but then we are really confined by our data here. Or this is and then we actually address that in our limitation of the paper. Right. So in the paper, you also talk about what are the limitations of your paper, and you can tell the reviewer saying that, well, we've already put that as a limitation of our paper, or thank you so much for saying that there's a gap here, so we'll put that as a limitation in our paper. So usually, so you want so you address all those comments, or at least try to give some explanation of why we are not able to address some comments, and then you sort of like give those reviews back to the revision back to the editor, and the editor will look at it, and then they'll again pass those down to the reviewers who reviewed the paper. And if the reviewers are happy with your revision, then they usually recommend for acceptance of your paper, or they could be following up with you with more comments. Okay, so those things happen. So in my experience, I've had experience where my paper was accepted after the first revision. And there was also one instance where I had to review my paper 4 times before actually publication, because the reviewers keep asking for more questions.